Da-na-na-na, 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 da-na-na-na.
No, you got to keep doing it. You got to keep doing it. It's layered.
I can't do this. I have no talent for this. There's a reason I'm not a musical in anything. You gotta
layer it.
Yeah.
You gotta layer it.
Maybe I'll just layer it in post, make us sound great.
Yeah. Just, put the real song in.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be any fun, though. But we are here. I'm Jackson.
I'm home at the movies.
And we are doing a extra special BNA reviews episode on the latest Game of Thrones, which we are titling Why You Are All Wrong, about the episode 5 of Game of Thrones, season 8.
Yes, that is a apt title.
The Bells. That's the name of the episode.
It's
the Bells. Yeah.
The bell tolls.
I think we might have some disagreements here.
Okay.
But overall, I think I can speak for both of us that we both liked the episode.
I would say unequivocally. Unequivocally. It is the best episode of the season.
Okay.
My opinion, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
I felt things in this episode.
Yes.
Basically some of the first and I didn't feel like isn't Giants Bane hilarious kind of thing,
Sure. Yeah.
I felt more than that in this one, and that was pretty great.
It didn't hit the feels for me like the second one did, just because there were so many little moments in the second episode, like Mormont and Samwell with the sword and, all the guys sitting around the fire, the song at the end that Podrick sings when everybody's like going off to battle. Now, the problem is I didn't know at the time that the battle would be a letdown.
Yep.
That battle. Yes. But I still would say that one was my favorite episode of the season. But, I mean, this was fucking nuts. And this has the lowest Rotten Tomatoes score of any episode of the series.
I think that's because I was going to say people are idiots, but I'm not going to lambast people who don't like this. I think the problem with a lot of them is they thought that Dany, and not all, because there are some people who can take a story and talk about the execution of it rather than what they wanted. But I think a lot of people wanted Dany to be the savior. And she's not designed to be the savior. She was the red herring all along.
Yeah, but they didn't do a good job of setting that up, though. In my opinion, I
feel like they did a good job of setting up that she was the red herring because, I think it depends on how you're going to say what you're going to say next. I
just feel like there's like 6 episodes missing in here. That's how I feel. And it's not just with her storyline, but like now all of a sudden, like, remember like Arya and the Hound's journey north? Yeah. Like you think about that. Now they did the southern journey and like a half of, Right. There's just a lot of that going on.
The last 2 seasons have had sort of like condensed time.
Right.
And that's one of those things where as I watch it, I'm like, yeah, you could have little moments here and there, but I'm a big fan of like narrative efficiency. And if there's nothing eventful that happened on that journey other than having a couple conversations with Arya and the Hounds, I don't really care.
Well, but that's not how Game of Thrones is. Like things would have happened.
I understand.
On that journey. I mean, that's like the show. Right?
I understand that.
Okay.
We're kind of to the point now where it's kind of like, it's almost being treated like, it's almost like a streaming show now where it's being treated like a really long movie.
It's like a really long action movie now.
Yes.
Like, honestly, that is what it feels like.
Yes. And to me, if you're going to say like, oh, that's why the setup didn't work. I'm not fully on board with that. I think you could make the argument that the reason that the red herring doesn't work for Dany is because there are so many warning signs along the way that if you thought that she was going to be the savior when she wants to burn all these people, she's delusional, she's put into positions of being paranoid. There were a lot of warning signs. So
recently. And little nuggets along the way, but the whole point was she was learning, right? Like she had advisors that were like helping her through her mistakes.
Right.
No, I don't agree with you that like, are you saying that it was a given that this was going to happen the whole time? Because I don't agree with that.
No, I don't think it was a given. I think the possibility of this happening was always very high.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree that if you thought that it was going to get wrapped up in a bow where Danny gets her throne and that's the show, because I think I disagree with that. That's not the show.
Because
period.
left to her own devices, she is an angry, vindictive, vengeful person. What drives her is vengeance, ultimately. And
by the way, this is all spoilers. Can we just start off right off the bat?
Yeah, it's spoilers. I mean, I guess we haven't actually said what she did, but I guess we kind of gave away that she did something not so great.
Right.
But the idea, like, I just don't like people like, oh, like, it's really funny to me. Like, you think about all those people out there, all those women who have like the Mother of Dragons, whatever.
swag, now they're all pissed.
And now it's like, no, I'm not like her. It's like the whole point was that she was nuts, and without her advisors, she probably, like that Slaver's Bay, whatever.
Sure,
she would have just treated those people horrendously. I'm not saying that they didn't deserve it, but the whole point is that her inclination is vengeance and violence.
Yeah, but she did treat the bad people horrendously in that situation. And here's where I can understand like the leap not being made in people's minds. Like I think about that whole section. Remember when the bones of the child were brought to her and fucking she locked her dragons up in like a fucking, you know what I mean? Like it's just it like it works for me that she snapped and killed everyone. Yeah. I just think that you needed a lot more like fermentation there. You needed, like, for instance, like one of the main things that should be like the red flag for me that shit's gonna go down is the whole John scene in this episode where he like goes in to see her,
right?
And like basically he rejects her,
right?
And like that, you're supposed to, as the viewer, take that as like this huge moment,
right?
But it's like, I'm sorry. To me, the character doesn't give a fuck about John compared to like Khal Drogo or something. Right. Like that's just because there's nothing there. And then John with Ygritte, like when they say they love each other and shit, these two, it means nothing to me.
Right. And that's, and I don't put that as a problem on the episode. Sure. I put it on the last few seasons moving at the pace that you're saying. So it's, so that not working as well as it could have, because you're right. I didn't feel too much in that season.
Right. Like that's like the last straw.
But it also didn't feel like it was made to be like a tragedy. Like it didn't feel like this giant thing. And I'm not sure if that was the intent of the scene. It was almost supposed to be like, isn't it just, sad for Danny? It didn't feel like John has to fight his love. Cause that never really felt.
No. But what I'm saying is they line up this compounding thing after thing where this person betrays her. This person dies. This person betrays her. This person betrays her. And then John, the love of her life or some shit.
Right.
That's the ultimate betrayal, right? I mean, he lied to her, or he didn't lie to her, but he said he took the secret and he told his family. Right. And then when he comes in there, she like still tries to give herself to him again. Right. And he rejects her. Right.
I mean, I understand all of that. Yeah. I'm saying that to me, you're saying it should be like one of the biggest things. I mean, and I'm saying to me, it was sort of like the nail in the coffin.
Well, it's not even that.
Because it was like the cherry on the sundae, because it's like
it doesn't at that point, like that though.
At that point, anything, I think any more betrayal or anything less than adoration would have tipped her over the edge.
Okay.
I think at that point.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't.
Because she has no one. And that's what that scene kind of signifies, is that she has no one. She feels like she has no one.
Right. Well, and she does have no one.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Like there's the scene where she's like in the last episode where she's watching John get all the adulation and all, you know what I mean? Like all of that stuff. It's like she, basically took over this other continent and had everybody following her. And then she comes back home and nobody gives a shit.
Right.
Which it works for me because I can see what they were going for, but it's a little strange. It's a little strange that you spent 6 or 7 seasons, and sure, there were moments where she talked about like, oh, I'm going to come raise your cities and whatever, where she was trying to instill fear in people she was taught, whatever. That's true. But you still spent like 6 seasons. Like, she's a fan favorite, good character, right? I mean, it almost reminds me of like the Anakin turn because like you get it. Like, I can get what Lucas was going for, but it just all of a sudden he's murdering children. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, that's and kind of me. And to me, it wasn't as bad as the Anakin. It wasn't as bad
because I feel like, you know, people were like, oh, it's rushed or whatever, and I'm not going to say like I fully disagree, but I thought the moment worked really well because I liked the idea of like she hears the bells, like I've described it before, but she hears the bells, and the fact that the bells mean nothing, that's supposed to signify you won, you obtained your goal your goal of years and years and years of your life. The thing that defines you as a human being, you have obtained. And then it means nothing, and she feels hollow, she still feels alone, and she just snaps.
See, I don't necessarily, I think, okay, to give Danny like some points here where I think that she might be right is like, okay, she doesn't have what she wants because sure, she goes and takes the castle, but the problem still exists. The whole conversation she had about fear is why she did it, in my opinion. Right. Because sure, she can sit there for a minute, but if the people don't fall in line or give a rat's fuck, and at some point they're going to know about John, she knows this. Right. She's going to lose it. So now she has strengthened her hold on the throne, right?
But I mean, you're making a point that she actually thought about it like she thought through it logically.
I absolutely think she did.
I don't think she did. I think I think the look on her face is a face of pure emotion.
Yeah, but emotion over the fact that like I've fought my whole fucking life for this. This is my moment. I mean, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take what's rightfully mine.
I'm not saying
I'm just going to fucking do it by force.
I'm not saying she didn't think about that, because I'm sure that those were thoughts brewing beforehand. But to have those be the reason why she killed children and she basically destroyed the entire city, I'm not sure that she would, even in the state she's in, I don't think that she would rationalize that to herself. No. I think it was an emotional decision based on those feelings.
Well, everything she's gone through in her life, but she knows damn well, or she thinks damn well, that if she just goes and fucking takes care of Cersei and takes the throne, that's not the end of this. Right. And this is her way of ending this, in her opinion. Right. But yeah, that was, I mean, that's the big thing that's the big controversial thing, right? So I don't agree that like it's out of character. Like people are saying it's completely out of character. It's not. All I'm saying is that it didn't, I wasn't 100% sold on it. It worked for me because as a person who like loves these books and understands the like what they're going for, I can like plug in shit. Like, okay, this is this, and this led her to do this. I get it. I don't think
you need to like plug anything in though.
I do.
I don't think you need to plug anything in. I felt like it was very clear what they were trying to do. It's just a condensed version of what Game of Thrones does.
Yeah, but that's not Game of Thrones then. That's my point.
That's
my point. Like you've gotten to know these characters over such a long period of time. Like there's been subtle little changes in all of their personalities over the course of the 8 seasons. And what has happened to Dany is way faster than we're used to. You know what I mean?
I would agree it's faster. But I mean, it's also one of those things. I think there are lots of things that make Game of Thrones not what it used to be and not what Game of Thrones is. I think that the whole condensed storyline thing is probably one of the weakest arguments that that's not Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones is about politics, about character interactions. That's what it's about. The fast pace of this, to me, it's like, I get it. Like, I know where this is going. I know what's happening. I don't need another 5 episodes for me to know or earn what she did. In fact, I kind of like that it happened so suddenly.
Oh, it's terrible.
I like that it happened suddenly because it's actually a little bit surprising when it happens, rather than just like, I saw this coming for the last 4 episodes.
Sure, but you can make it surprising without like...
You can. I'm not saying you can't.
buy that.
I'm saying I like this. I like a little bit of a faster paced story because Game of Thrones has at times dabbled in going a little too slow.
Never.
I disagree.
Yeah, but you don't like slow stuff.
No, that's not true.
In general, between us, I'm the one who likes the slow stuff.
You will like something slower more than I will like it, but that doesn't mean I don't like slow things.
I don't know. It sounds like you don't. I mean, the last 2 seasons are it's not even a question what the weakest 2 seasons are of this show. And what is the thing that changed the most? Oh, shit happening constantly.
I think to me, actually, I think it's a matter of the lack of source material. So they're moving in directions that I'm not sure have been earned.
Right. Well, it's hard to make things feel earned when you're shoving 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag.
And I guess I misspoke. It's not that it's not earned. It's that some of it feels very cookie cutter and very safe. A lot of the decisions that have been made in the last few seasons. And that is my problem. And I think that's where any problem that I can lay at this episode's feet lies with the problems. The setup. The setup.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. If I just saw this episode, and I didn't know.
That's why I'm judging this episode.
I'm saying?
I'm judging this episode in a vacuum.
That though. Okay. So to your point, though, about, them taking things in the wrong, nothing is shocking when there's shit happening all the time. You can't make it shocking. That's the problem. The reason why the red wedding is shocking is because you're in the middle of a fucking wedding episode or you're doing these things. Nothing's shocking there. I don't know. I think that the slow burn pace of certain shows, TV, movies, whatever, that's what gives the something happens power, in my opinion. You can't just have every other episode be a fucking battle at the wall or a battle here or a battle there. I don't think it's as simple as your pacing. I think part of it is sort of setting up what expectations are for certain episodes and then subverting those, which is why the first 2 episodes of this season were so boring, because you knew what type of episode you were in. That's true. But I don't agree that the second one was fucking boring. It was amazing. It's got nice character bits, but it's still kind of, not a whole lot happens. But that's why I like Game of Thrones. I don't give a fuck about all that shit. That's not what I care about. Those are the little nuggets that are sprinkled. I care about, to me, the best scene in this episode, and we can get away from Dany now if we want, is Tyrion and Jaime. It's Tyrion saying goodbye to Jaime is amazing. That was a great scene. I actually thought that there were a lot of great scenes. I loved the fact that when Cersei dies, we actually feel something for her. Yeah, and a lot of people are pissed about that, and I don't get it. Pissed about what? The fact that she's evil. Why are you trying to make me feel something for this bitch? But to me, but more so than the Dany thing, there have been moments of feeling sympathetic for Cersei through the entire series. That's the whole point of the show, is that people can do monstrous things, but they're still people, and that you feel bad for them when something happens that's bad. Sometimes you do. Not all the time. No, I agree. When Ramsay Bolton got it, nobody gave a fuck, but he never showed any, you know. And people could be like, oh, well, why are you doing this? Why are you treating them like this? And it's well, I don't know. It's it makes it more interesting. It makes a better scene rather than her just being fuck you, Dany. Yeah. Well, she was a person who fell in love with her brother, was forced basically to marry a person that she didn't love, had kids with her brother. All of her kids got fucking killed. She was fucking marched through the streets of King's Landing naked. Right. Going from the top pedestal of the fucking, world to that. She's been through some shit. She's been through some, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think that people really read her character correctly, I guess. I find more sympathy for her. That's what makes her good. That's what makes her interesting. That's what makes her a good villain, is that you can still feel things for her. She has a reason for being the way she is. Doesn't justify it, but it's just it's character motivation, and it's well fleshed out, and it's continuous. Okay. Yeah, I agree. And Jaime is the same. I love just seeing the way that he handled
knowing that he was going to die. That was a great death scene for both of them. I
would agree.
Yeah, who else?
I didn't like the fact that he fought Greyjoy before he went in there. That to me made no sense to have in there.
I thought it was fine. I don't really care. Like
you have Jaime get a mortal wound and like it doesn't affect what happens in the plot whatsoever. Nothing different occurs because of that, I guess would be my point. And you could have just had Greyjoy fucking die when the dragon hit the ship. It wouldn't have made any difference.
So what I would say is that it doesn't have an overall effect at the end of the day.
Right.
What it does for the narrative is it creates tension for, is Jaime going to get there in time before he dies? I mean, that's fine enough for a reason for it to happen in my book.
But did you have any doubts that he was going to see her again?
I really don't know. That would have been incredibly tragic if he never did.
I didn't.
It's Game of Thrones.
Yeah, no, you're talking. It's Game of Thrones like 6 and before. Like Game of Thrones now, it's like, oh, he's going to see her again.
Well, it's Game of Thrones now because they want their payoffs, and they want their payoffs all the time.
Well, and that's what was kind of neat to me too about that scene is like a lot of people are pissed that they didn't get to see Cersei like bite the dust from one of the heroic characters. Like I wouldn't have minded if Jaime killed Cersei, but I liked what they did. It made sense to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know, like people bitching about that. I don't get, I thought the Tyrion, like I said, the Tyrion Jaime moment in this is just,
Tyrion's great though.
Oh, he's fucking amazing. Well,
and I thought for sure, if I'm honest, that Dany was going to be waiting outside for him.
Oh, really?
To kill him.
Oh,
she doesn't trust him. She doesn't trust him. I thought for sure.
Waiting outside to kill who? Tyrion?
Tyrion, yeah.
At the end of the show episode? When?
No. When he goes to see his brother. I'm
like if she doesn't. I thought you meant like waiting outside for Jaime and Cersei at the end.
No.
No, because Tyrion wouldn't fight. Like that was legitimate, you know. But yeah, that was a great nugget for book readers too, because that's one thing that like the show hasn't done as good of a job of, is like showing their relationship.
I always see. I kind of disagree. I mean, it's not there, and it's not one of the most prevalent relationships. Right. But I've always felt like there was a clear brotherly love there. I felt like you could clearly tell that Jaime was the only person in his family that gave Tyrion the time of day.
You're right.
And so that's why that scene works so well. And that's why I'm like, I thought like this dramatic scene, saying goodbye to his brother, letting his brother go, it could have been a great ending scene for Tyrion. Like, I'm not saying we're not going to get a great one, because we will.
Hopefully.
We will.
I mean, hopefully. We don't know.
I think it's...
You think we're going to get a good scene from him?
Tyrion is going to have a moment. My prediction is that he's going to have a moment where he stands up to Dany before she kills him.
Oh, you think he's going to die? George really loves Tyrion.
He loves Tyrion. My whole thought was, and I could be wrong, because Game of Thrones is not exactly clear cut like this all the time. But so thematically, basically the idea was like, of last episode was like people dealing with their demons. And the idea of like, okay, so Dany gave into her paranoia, Grey Worm gave into his rage, Cersei gave into her ego, Qyburn gives into his love of his creation. I mean, basically, Jaime gave into his love for his sister. Sure. Everybody who gave into their lesser selves, the things that they know they shouldn't do, died.
Okay.
The only people who didn't are Arya and Jon Snow and Dany. But Dany had a dragon.
Dany's gotta die.
So Dany's gone. I think Grey Worm is gone. And Tyrion succumbed to his love and his trust of his family.
Okay.
Now, it didn't have
it's weird he's alone now.
He is alone. He's the last Lannister.
Alone. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Dude, it's
the last Lannister.
It's amazing how much, I mean, maybe you'll disagree with this, but how awesome that house is. They're the most interesting drama on the show, I would say.
I feel like George wrote the show around that family, because I think he loves the idea of like...
The books, you mean?
Yeah. Because like the whole, like, I think he loves the idea of like the lion is the most regal of things, but this is the most fucked up house out of all of the houses.
They're fucking so great. They really are.
Yeah.
And Tywin was great.
Tywin was maybe
one of the best performances in the show's history, I would say.
Tyrion is my favorite Lannister, but Tywin was getting up there.
He's so good. But oh yeah, real quick, we skipped right over this. I loved Varys ending in this.
Yeah.
I thought it was fucking fantastic.
I'll tell you, that's one of my only problems with the episode, actually.
What's that?
It's the problem that Varys has made it this far into the series, and he's survived multiple kings and queens.
Sure.
But this is how he goes out. Like, he goes out in a way where basically he basically gave away his hand.
I think he knew that he couldn't betray Dany without her finding out. I think he just knew.
It might have been.
I mean, he tried to kill her. He tried to poison her.
The weird thing to me is that like Dany seems like, as far as a leader goes, actually more inept than some of the kings that we've seen so far. And so it's sort of strange to me that like he couldn't find, like, he's a smart fucking guy. The fact that he couldn't find a way to get this information out, and the fact that he was so over the top with Jon Snow.
Well,
you know,
he trusted Tyrion, though.
That's true.
That's the problem.
That's true.
Because Tyrion fucked him. I mean, he did. And it's sad because, like, Varys is the reason Tyrion got out of King's Landing to across the Narrow Sea. You know?
Do you think Dany is coming for Sansa? Now that Sansa went out and made that made it known?
I mean, I would assume.
Okay.
Because as long as Sansa's around, there's somebody who has some sort of, loyalty who will take her down.
And do you think it's Jon Snow who has to kill Dany, or
I
do you think it's
Arya
Arya
kills Dany? I just do. It just seemed, but
know
then
what?
again, I also believe that Arya, this was like the twig snapped in her head, and now like she's not going to be a little assassin anymore. I feel like that kind of, she snapped out of that in this episode, which I also thought was fucking interesting.
I thought that was great because people have been like, oh, Arya's like freaking out, like Arya's afraid of death or whatever. And that makes no sense because she made a pact with the god of death or whatever. And you're like, but she's a girl. She's a kid. She's a human. And she's watching one of the biggest atrocities probably, I mean, definitely of their lifetime.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
In that world. So, I mean, what do you expect her to do? Just like walk out calmly? Like, how could you possibly identify with a character who walked out of that calmly and unscathed and uncaring?
And not just that, but like there's the scene where she says thank you to the Hound. I don't think that's just like thank you for one thing. I think it's like thank you. You just woke my ass up.
Yes.
Like you're right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was great.
Clegane Bowl.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
It was great. That was a fantastic fight scene. The setting of it. Oh.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I don't know. It's a little bit like I understand why the Hound hates the Mountain.
Right.
I wish there was more like,
why does the Mountain hate the Hound?
Well, and I get it. He just hates him because he's an asshole and he was a monster before he became a monster. But,
right.
But do you know what I mean? Like,
I kind of got that he just never liked his little brother.
Okay.
I mean, he just seemed like, I mean, the Mountain was a monster before he was
right.
Like,
that's the
and
point.
And now it's this whole like, oh, you're coming to challenge me and I actually can remember you. And it's like, I don't know. It
was pretty tight. I mean, it was tight, but it was very like Hollywood.
There was, you
know what I mean?
My main problem with the fight, and it's such a gripe, but it's like, why does it take people so long to go for the eyes?
I know.
They're the groin of the head.
Yeah. And it's the only exposed part of his body.
Yeah. So, I mean, the whole, like, he's crushing your eyes. Why don't you stab his eyes?
Kind of a nitpick, but you're right.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things. It doesn't destroy it, like, story-wise or anything. But you're right. You can't help but go, why don't you stab him in the fucking head?
Yeah.
Somewhere in the face. Like,
yeah.
But, yeah, my only problem with it was I hope that there's more going on in the books. And that's the thing is I am so intrigued now to see what these books have in them because there's going to be a ton of shit. I'm sure the beats are all there.
Yeah.
I'm sure Dany snaps and burns everybody and all that shit. But like, I mean, he's going to have like 1,800 pages to play with like their relationship.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So So
I'll
it
be
made
interested.
it's funny because the way they've kind of fucked this up has like restored my wanting to read the books, because for a while I was just in like I don't give a fuck mode. You know what I'm saying?
But now you're kind of in the mode of like, well, there's no way it can't be better than this shit.
Right, yeah. Or like, I'd really like to see that, because I can create an episode in my fucking head.
Right.
I'd like to see, more of this or whatever. But
I mean, I can say one of the things that I was disappointed in was I always thought like this is where this was the season where shit could go fucking bananas.
Sure.
Because you've got
it
Danny and her
though in that episode.
In the latest one, but I'm still so incredibly disappointed with the Night King.
Overall, yeah, that was terrible.
I'm disappointed in the setup for this episode, but I still feel like the episode, given the setup for it, did about as good of a job as this episode could do with what it had to do.
No, yeah, that I give the episode an A just because I was blown away. Like I wasn't but I get why people don't like it. I do. I don't get like if they're complaining that Danny is bad, I don't agree with that. Right. But I agree with the concepts of like, well, I just don't like, I'm not buying it. Like when they say that, like I have no problem with the fact that she's there. Right. I don't like how she got there. You know what I'm saying? Like
I guess so. I kind of disagree. I mean, you can feel how you want to feel about it. I disagree that it's not earned, because I do feel like it was earned. I feel like it's earned a hell of a lot more than the Anakin turn. And that's one of the hardest things to do is the negative, tragic character arc is actually making it believable, taking a character that you liked and turning them into a monster. That is very hard to do. And I feel like they did about as good of a job as I've seen anybody do with a character.
Well, it's just funny because it was easy for me because I've been saying she's an entitled asshole for fucking years.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like her.
Right.
So when it happened, I'm like, oh, good. Now they're all going to be pissed. But yeah, overall, I thought it. I mean,
the cinematography was
fucking incredible. Like, look, why don't you just make it? Like, I guess I have to eat my words because. Maybe it wasn't just the effects that they were worried about on the long night, because they made this and it looked fucking great.
It was flat out amazing.
It was. And it really was.
And some of the best stuff was the choosing to do the in the streets shots with Danny. Like, yes, the big shots of the dragon going nuts on the city, those are great too.
Sure.
And the close-ups of the dragon, I mean, everything like that is impressive. But when you run through the streets with Arya, that's some of the most impressive like camera work and stunt work. But also it's also some of the most emotionally engaging stuff.
Yes, you can feel it.
Yeah.
Well, I looked over at The Fiancé and I was like, I can't even imagine how much money they spent on this, because they look like, I'm sure there's green screens and backgrounds and shit, fine, but like their characters are running.
Yes.
And they have somewhere to really run. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like Star Wars where they're walking through every set and everything's like a single room that's just completely painted green. I mean, it is fucking impressive.
I can't wait for the behind the scenes stuff just to see how much is green screen, how much of the explosions were actually there. You know what I mean? Because you can enhance explosions.
Whatever they did was great.
Right.
Whatever they did.
I mean, because what they could have done, and something I probably would do, is just create basically giant smoke bombs, so you can add add lights, and you can add the fire later. Yeah. But
what did you think of the fact that like once she started torching the city, we never saw it from her point of view again?
I thought that was actually a fantastic
I loved it. Yeah,
decision.
It made perfect sense to me. And people are bitching about that too. I don't get it. Because to me, it's like, no, she's lost you. Like, you're not with her anymore. Right. You know what I mean?
And it was a smart decision, because the second that you cut back to her and she's crying or going, you're there with her and you just disengage with her even more as a character. It's such a smart decision to have to wait until next week to be with her again and deal with her mindset and all of that. Because we don't know. Is she regretting it in the moment? Is she laughing? Is she crying? How is she reacting to what she's doing?
I feel like, and this is a guess, I guess, I'm just going to guess here. I'm going to go ahead of myself, but I feel like she knows in her fucked up state of mind, she believes this is what she had to do.
Yeah.
And she was going to take this fucking throne and keep it come hell or high water.
Right.
And
but she's still a person that knows.
Be damned.
Well, and she's still a person that knows she's killing like children. So my whole point is like, how does that play on her face?
That's what's so hard about this, though. That's where I get people, because I get it, like, logically. I understand what they're going for, but like, this is beyond evil what she does.
Right. Well,
like, it is fucking crazy.
Well, and I think a lot of it is the idea that why it works better than the Anakin one is because she is somewhat removed from the people's deaths. She can,
you're right.
She can almost justify it. Like, there's a soldier.
Yeah, she's just torching buildings and shit.
Yeah,
right. Well, and she's actually like a real character.
Yes, well, that too.
That's what also helps, because he's just like, you were told that Anakin was this heroic guy,
right?
And like, no, he was just a whiny brat kid, and then he was a whiny brat like teenage kid, and then he was just a whiny asshole,
right?
20 whatever year old.
I mean, this whole episode is basically it's another one of those giant payoff episodes. There's lots of character arcs that are being paid off in this episode, and I feel like it's good payoff for the most part. The problem is that Game of Thrones is actually, it's the problem when you get to this point in a story. Sometimes it becomes predictable because you set up the arcs. Anybody who's a discerning viewer kind of knows where people are going.
Sure.
So,
well, and I feel like this is tough for them because like you're building these arcs like on a plane that's like this long, right?
Right, yeah.
And all of a sudden, like maybe you think that you're gonna have a longer way to go to draw that arc.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like
half
condensed.
the length. Right, half the length. Yeah. I just want to finish my whole thought, and we can end this pretty soon. But my thought was this season could be crazy fucked up, like, because I was like, it's kind of simple to just do like battle like one side versus another side. But I loved the idea of like maybe all three sides fight at the same time.
I loved that whole concept of
like it's the Ice King versus Cersei versus the Men of the North.
Okay.
And like just absolute, utter and complete chaos. Now, how you write that, how you can write a scene where that happens, that requires a lot of work. That's why I kind of look at this scene or this season. And I'm like, you kind of took the easy way out in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's funny too, because I was talking to our buddy Mike about this, and he brought up the point of like the real threat. Like, okay, so whoever wins the battle for King's Landing, like the world goes on at least.
Yeah.
Like if the Night King won,
nothing happens.
It's over.
Yeah, it's over.
That's what's interesting is like why is that the one that's resolved first?
Right. That's how you keep the tension. That's how you could have kept like an idea of a three-sided attack, is like maybe the survivors of Winterfell had to retreat. And it's just this small band of like a couple hundred people. They made it out and they're going north, and they're like, look, winter is fucking here, man. You got to help us. And Cersei's like, I'm gonna fucking slaughter you. And then the ice people come, and then it's like, then it's everything.
Or you have the ice people win and they make their way to King's Landing, and then like the North shows up. I mean,
you still have to have enough of your main characters left to have people. Right. You can't kill Jon Snow and Dany in the same battle and have people be okay with it.
But one other thing that annoyed the piss out of me, that makes me feel like they don't even get their own story that they're writing. What the fuck is Davos Seaworth doing like at the front of the fucking...
That was a bad decision.
Absolutely ridiculous.
I thought that because he's like, I'm not a soldier. It's pretty close to my Liam Neeson impression.
He's a great character.
I love him. The second that he shows up and he's like, I'm not going to like this favor, am I?
He's just
You're
great.
Just like, thank God for Davos.
The fucking Onion Knight smuggler is on. He's like, what was that?
Yeah.
That made no sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can nitpick the shit out of this, but in general, like, I'm satisfied with Cersei and Jaime's ending. I'm satisfied with the Hound's ending, though, like I said, I wish that setup was a little bit less like, oh, now we fight. I wish it was a little more natural in the story. Because that almost felt like a WWE, like, just completely like, okay,
it was
fan service.
It was fan service.
It was fan service. But
It also made sense to me because I like the idea, like the Hound is so, and that it fits in with like the character arcs because the Hound is so obsessed with revenge that he's like, well, my brother's going to die. It's going to be by my fucking hands.
Yeah, sure.
Not by Danny's hands. Not by that fucking dragon.
But yeah, so I liked his ending. I love the whole like, oh, John's pulling Northerners off of the women who they're trying to rape concept.
Yeah.
Like the idea that like war turns all evil. Like there's no good guys or bad guys.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like this whole like Northmen are perfect. I'm sorry.
It's ridiculous.
Have you not been watching Game of Thrones?
That's
Nobody
why
is
Ned
human.
was different. That's the whole point. Like, and Ned would behead people. Like, just kill motherfuckers.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the North had no crime.
Right,
He was literally killing a criminal in the first episode.
Yeah, who hardly did anything, by the way. He like deserted the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
Like he got his fucking head chopped off.
I'm sorry. It's just humans are humans. George R.R. Martin would never be like, oh, the Northmen are the best men.
No, it's ridiculous.
They might have slightly different values, but they're still human.
Right. So yeah, overall, I thought it was fucking good.
I think it's the best episode of the season. It
could be the best of the last 2 seasons if you're arguing that.
I loved the one with the ice dragon.
That was pretty good.
That was my favorite episode of last season.
Yeah,
I like the seasons where big things happen, not just on character levels, but I like the big
battle stuff.
The battle stuff, but I also like things that do giant changes to the world at large.
Okay.
You know, this changed the world fundamentally. There is no going back.
See, and I like the little ones like the, Red Viper and fucking,
that was a great one too.
And fucking Joffrey and fucking Tywin, even though by the way, they fucked up the Tywin kill with Tyrion majorly, but it was still good.
I like those scenes. I like those scenes in those episodes too. It's just we've almost moved beyond it, but it just goes back into what we said about like Game of Thrones isn't the same anymore.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Like that's the thing. You're right. There's no way to do those things in this condensed version and have.
And I don't even think it's the condensed version. I think it's just the fact that like we've reached the head, we've reached the climax of the story. Little things just don't pay off the same way.
Yeah, but you could have had 2 10-episode seasons. You could have still had some more.
You could have
juice in there. I think
you could have.
I don't know. I mean, but and that's the other thing. I don't know if this is a conversation for another time, but I would love to know what happened to make them shorten these last 2 seasons. Like, I don't know the whole story.
I'm pretty sure it's budget.
No,
no
way.
They got less episodes so that they could shove more money into those episodes.
That's right. That's not like the rumors I've heard is that they were just done. Like, we're done with this. HBO wanted 10 episodes. Why wouldn't they want it?
They would want 10 episode seasons. I thought that the creator, I mean, we'll have to look this up. We don't need to keep this.
You thought that they needed enough money to make. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I got to imagine whatever they spent on this shit is worth it to them.
It's going to be amazing to watch the subscriptions just plummet.
That's true. See, you could have gotten another like $40 out of or $20 out of every fucking person if you dragged it out for 4 more weeks, Like, that's why it's weird to me. I would love to. Well, it's like, and if it is the actors and like shit, they're just being like burnt out and done. Like, oh yeah, good luck with your A-list careers that you're going to have now that Game of Thrones is over.
Not many people are going anywhere out of this.
No, absolutely not.
I mean, Lena Headey.
Yeah,
right?
she's great.
She's the best one in the show, I think.
And she's Dinklage
and Dinklage, but Dinklage already had a career before this.
Well, and this is still the greatest thing he'll have ever done.
Probably.
Right? I mean,
there's always Infinity War.
Let's end with that.
That's what killing you means.
That's the end. It was great, though.
It was. Thanks for listening, guys. Let us know what you think. Let us know why your opinion is wrong on it if you don't like it.
They're going to torch us in the comments if they listen to this.
Yeah, well.
We're used to it.
Yeah, that's my life. I've said it before. I'll say it again.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.